Many years ago, in a town in Europe, the Rav and the townspeople had put together some funds to build their main synagogue in their city. But obviously these things always come with costs, a lot of costs, and the initial costs don't begin to cover anything. But this was to be the central synagogue of the city. And on the day that they chose to put the foundation stones, the foundation brick, the Rav takes the brick, and he was given the honor to put the foundation brick where it should go. And he surprises everyone. He turns around and he says, he holds the brick, and he says, right now, I'm offering. If anyone else wants to place this foundation stone and would agree to give a donation of gold, the weight of this brick, weight and size of this brick, and does so, I promise a bracha with a guarantee. I promise a blessing with a guarantee. I'm only giving this chance now. And he waits. Everyone's silent. Why? Because it's a big brick. No one was like, how are we going to match that with gold? It's huge. Probably weighs God knows how much. In those days, people didn't have that much money. From the end, someone raises their hand and says, Rabbi, I'll do it. He was a rich man, owned a big factory, comes forward, doesn't say a word. They give him all the paperwork, and he signs his name as a guarantee that he's going to pay the weight of that brick in gold. He signs it, and it becomes a beautiful ceremony, and he takes the brick, and he has kavanah, and he puts it there as the foundation brick of the great synagogue. Comes the next day, this guy does not waste a minute. Comes knocking on the rabbi's door. Kvod Harav says, yes, thank you so much for your beautiful gesture yesterday. Says, no, thank you. I'm here for my bracha. The rabbi was so surprised that this guy was taking it so seriously too. And the Rav, I don't know who it was, but it was one of the great Gedolim. One of the greats of the time. He says, fine, come on in. Tell me what it is that you want. So he says to the rabbi that it's been 20 years, he's been married, and they have no children. All the doctors, everyone they've gone to, have totally given up on them. He says, I heard you yesterday say that the bracha comes with a guarantee, and that's what we want. Please give us a blessing for children. The rabbi listens to this guy's sob story, and he says, okay, give me a minute. Rav goes into his study for 1 hour, and he prays. After an hour, he comes out, and he says, I can give you a blessing for children, but it comes with conditions. You have to be willing to accept those conditions, unfortunately. He says, okay, tell me what the conditions are. He says, number one is that if you have a child, you will lose everything you own. You will go completely bankrupt. You won't own a penny. He says, okay, is that it? He says, no. He says, you will not live to raise your child either. Number three, your wife, the mother of the child, if you have a child, will not live to raise the child either. So the man thinks for a minute and he says, option number one, the condition number one is okay with him. Condition number two is also okay. He's willing to sacrifice. He won't even think twice about it. Condition number three, he says he has to speak to his wife. It's not his decision. He says, let me come back to you tomorrow. No problem. He goes home and he talks to his wife and he tells the wife the news. Right away, the woman thinks about it and says, done. If we're going to be blessed with a child, then fine. Go tell the rabbi that they want the blessing. The next day, he goes to the rabbi and he says that they want the blessing. The rabbi finally blesses them. 10 days later, this man's factory burns down. He loses, and at that time there were no insurances and policies. He loses everything. Everything. What does he feel? Happy. The bracha of the rabbi is coming true. And as soon as the factory burns down, all of a sudden they realize that his wife is pregnant. It's such a happy moment. But unfortunately, as soon as the wife becomes pregnant, the husband falls ill, and a few days later, he already knew what's coming. He passes away. Now this woman knew that if 2 of the conditions of this blessing already came true, the 3rd one's going to come true. So she starts planning ahead. However, they had no more money, they had no more means. She tries her best to live, to survive. She's in her 9th month. And she didn't know what to do. Who's going to take care of her baby? And she didn't know anyone in the city that she trusted. She didn't want the baby to be raised in that town. So what does she do? She starts to travel miles and miles away. She travels miles and miles away to a neighboring city. And finally, this is her last days of pregnancy. She was literally due. She finds a home, the lights are on, she knocks on the door. She is freezing. It was the freezing cold of weather of winter. They let her in. It was a 2 simple husband and wife. They were bakers. She doesn't tell them anything. She just says, please let me in. Could I stay with you? Have some warm food. They bring her in. She was freezing cold. She's pregnant. Who's not going to have mercy? They bring her in, feed her, warm her up. And she tells them that she's going into labor soon. And they go, don't worry, we'll help you out as much as we can. And before they could even go and call a midwife or whatever, she goes into labor. As she's going into labor and screaming pains of labor, the baby comes healthy. And she tells these 2 that she doesn't feel well. And she feels that she's going. And she asks them to please promise her that they'll raise this child. And this poor couple, bakers, what are they going to say? They were so sad by the situation. Like, no, don't talk like this, you're going to be fine. She holds her baby in her arms and she starts telling the baby everything that had occurred from the beginning of the rabbi's blessing. And these 2 are listening, crying. As this mother is telling her child, her last words are the story of how she became a mother. About the blessing of the rabbi and the guarantee and the sacrifice they made in order for the baby to come into this world. And the mother starts to cry. She said she is sorry. She starts to apologize to her baby that she's sorry that she's not going to be at her son's wedding, to take him down the chuppah bar minan. It's a very sad moment. The baker seeing this, seeing how the mother is so sad, he says, we guarantee you will raise the child. We'll give you even something else. They had a little daughter, an infant daughter. They say, we promise you that when our daughter, their daughter grows up, that they're going to make a shidduch and they'll get married. So don't worry, they're going to raise the child and make sure that he marries. And they already know who the child is. And right there, they make a mimic chuppah. The poor baker takes out his talit, brings his little daughter, puts it next to the newborn baby, and spreads the talit. It's not a halachically binding, but this mother that was literally at her last breaths smiles at seeing her own child newborn under the chuppah. And with that, like a bittersweet moment, she passes away. And his baker and his wife start raising this child, and they see that the child is very, very bright, very special child. Little by little, he goes to cheder, he goes to school, and they see he's more than bright. In high school, they ship him off to a yeshiva because the high school couldn't even handle him. He was too bright. He was too smart. Until he grows up, and he becomes a young man people really wanted around. People started offering him, shidduchim here and there. But he would say no to everyone because he knew that his step-parents had made a promise. Time comes, he marries the girl that he was promised to marry. And he grows to become the great Talmid Chacham we know today from the 1600s, which we call today the Maharsha. The Maharsha was one of the greatest commentaries of the Talmud. The Sfarim, the books that he's written. This was a man that his parents literally sacrificed everything for him just so that he'll come into this world. Not only did he come into this world, he changed the world forever. Anyone that has ever been in any surroundings of halakha or yeshiva, you hear the name the Maharsha. Morenu Harav Eliezer Adels was the Maharsha, and he changed the world forever. I want to tell you, you go home, you know your parents, you're with your parents, you're not with your parents, you kiss their feet. Our mothers and our fathers every day sacrificed everything for us. Everything. We don't realize it when we grow up. When we have children, those of us that have children know what it feels like to sacrifice for children. You would give anything for a child. So when you go home, I mean it quite literally. Kiss your mother and father's feet, not their hands. Because every parent that brings a child into this world means they have sacrificed. Period. And they expect nothing but the greatest things from every single one of us. That's an expectation they have from us. That's what nachat is. May we all be zocheh to have nachat from all of our children. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen.